Good morning. Erin Riley here with some yoga for middle school age kids and anybody else who feels like doing some movement. I'm going to be starting in about 3 minutes. So if you're checking with this later, you can just go ahead to the 3-minute mark. And if you are here with me earlier, welcome. You can grab your props if you're going to be using any of them. I'll mention that in a moment as well. But I'm glad you're here. Hello, Beth. I'm happy you're here too. So I guess I can start by saying that I'm doing this class for middle school, aiming at middle school age people, because the group called Community Investors, which is a nonprofit that is trying to help with the mental and physical health of the youth in our town of Wellesley, Massachusetts, had asked me to teach at the middle school, and now of course school is closed, so they had asked me to do these live streams. And actually starting today, Community Investors and the Wellesley Recreation Department are supporting me a little bit in this endeavor. So I definitely want to give a shout out to them, to Community Investors and the Wellesley Recreation Department. So thank you for the support, not only helping to get the word out, but also throwing a little financial assistance my way. So I appreciate that when everything is closed down. By the same token, if you would like to throw a little support my way, you can go to erin@personalday.net on PayPal, or I also might encourage you to perhaps donate to Community Investors directly, and I'll be sharing any proceeds that I get with Community Investors as well. So it is now 9:15, so I think I can start. So welcome to those of you who jumped ahead a few minutes. Any of the students that I had at Wellesley Middle School, if you're tuning into this at some point, I'm thrilled, and I'd love to hear from you. Again, my email, erin@personalday.net. If you want to let me know that you were able to watch this, that'd be great to hear. And also, if you take any pictures of yourselves doing any yoga at home, it really warms my heart to see that as well. So let's begin. We're gonna start just doing some cat and cow. So you can come onto your hands and knees, and just gonna move the spine a little bit, getting things to feel good, starting to get out of your head some and into your body. So you can just let your breath fill up your lungs and start to let your tailbone drop, head drop as well, and your back lifts up high. Anytime you like, you can switch it up. And just start to become the animals, the cat with their back lifted. This is supposed to be a cat who's afraid, but we don't want to be afraid right now, do we? There's a lot of scary stuff going on, but we're going to face it. Now lift your tailbone, lift your head, look it straight in the eye. Of course, we're just a cow, not a particularly brave animal, at least not its reputation. But look ahead. And if things start to get a little too much, you can always retreat, pulling in. But not into fear, into strength, moving back and forth. So yoga can always be just movement in your body, just feeling the vertebrae in your spine, getting a little mobility, the muscles in your back and front getting some stretching and strengthening. Or you can make some pictures in your head of what you're doing and have it be something that benefits your mind state as well as your body. So you can be tucking in, maybe you're a scared cat, Then you say, no, I'm going to be okay and I can face the world as you go through your cat and cow. For the last few times through here, just be a little more free-form about it. Do whatever feels good for you. You can let your head drop down, put your hips to one side or the other. Keep breathing in, and then come back to just your neutral hands and knees. And just notice what that couple of minutes that we just spent doing that can do for you. So if you don't have a whole hour, then you can just do something like this real quick. Maybe you've shifted something already. Another thing I'll say, and I'm just going to sit back on my heels for a moment just to talk with you, and I'm going to turn down the music a little, is that if you don't have a whole hour to do this yoga practice with me, which I'm doing for a whole hour, I beg you, I implore you, I plead with you to skip to the end and do the last 5 minutes or so of the Shavasana, no matter when you stop. So if you only do a couple of minutes with me, skip to the end. If you do, 45 minutes and you're like, oh, I've had enough, please just go to the end and do the relaxation at the end. So I know that the students who were with me at the middle school always loved Shavasana, so please don't give up on that now. It's probably the most important part of the whole thing. And if you have no time at all, just lie on the floor and do your Shavasana, okay? So, whether you're skipping to Shavasana right now, somewhere along the line, just make sure that you do that. I should have said that in the beginning. Let's move to a downward dog now. So tuck your toes under, fill up with air, lift your hips up high. Let's all keep our knees super bent for this downward dog. Make sure that your whole hand is supporting you. You're not cupping and hurting your wrists. Shake out your head. Pretend that you've got a hinge on the top of your head and you can open up. And all the gunk in your head that you do not need right now. Thinking about what's going on in the world or missing your friends or any of that kind of stuff. Just let it fall out right now. If you want to, you can let your legs go straight if that feels better for your body. And then let's come forward to a high push-up position. Move your feet back so your arms are straight up and down. You're not hurting your wrist at all as you work on building a little bit of strength here. So press your feet back, lift the crown of your head forward, feel a lot of length and strength. Filling up your body with air. And one of these times when you're going to empty out the air, lower toward the floor or maybe all the way to the floor. Let your toes go flat in the back. Bring your hands out in front. Let's become a different animal. Let's become a snake, the cobra. So you're coming up out of your basket, using the strength of your back and your arms to lift your torso high and to look around. See what's going on outside the basket. We can all identify with being in that basket, right? We're stuck in our houses or whatever. So you snake up and take a look around. See what's going on. At some point on your exhale, you're going to lower down to the floor again. Put your hands underneath your shoulders and come up onto your hands and knees or maybe toe plank. And then when you're emptying your breath, back to downward dog. Let's pretend we're a dog a little bit more and shake your tail some. Letting your hips go side to side. You can take your dog for a walk by bending one knee, lifting that heel, the same heel, pressing the other heel into the floor and switching it up. So maybe some of us are finding a lot of mental health and physical health by actually being outside walking dogs right now. Hopefully you're practicing your physical distancing. So take your dog here on the mat for a little walk. And then let your feet just come to stillness again, either with your legs straight or super bent. Either way feels good, hopefully. And bring your knees back to the floor. Let your feet go in the back. And we're going to try another little kind of retreat pose if things are getting just too much for you, is child's pose. So hopefully all of us can find the child within us. And I know when you're in middle school, you're not a child anymore. But we're still going to take child's pose. You can let your forehead come to the floor. If it doesn't reach the floor comfortably, find something, a pillow or a block that you can rest it on, and let your hands come back by your feet. I also like to call this pose wisdom pose, because it's not really like you're being a baby if you take this pose. This is a wonderful way to be. And I want you again to notice, you can stay down in it, I want you to notice how you feel when you're in this pose. And if you feel good, remember that. And when you are not feeling so good, come to this pose and see if it gives you something good that you need. So your hands were in the back, now let's bring them out into the front. Big long stretch. Walk your fingertips as far forward as you can get them. Take a big breath in here. Feel your lungs inflating and then empty out through your mouth. And then one of these other times when you're breathing in, come up onto your hands and knees again. And take another downward dog. Now you're going to bring your right foot up to the front of the mat, up between your hands, any way that works for you. So get it up between your hands if you can. Lift your back knee tall. Feel the stretch here. That same pressing back and the head forward that we were doing in our plank pose. But now it's a little easier because you get your leg up here. Breathing here, feeling the opening. And then we're going to bring the back foot up to the front. Take a forward fold that feels good for you. Again, another opportunity when your head is down. Maybe you're up here and your head is down to let the stuff go. You'll notice, probably if you're like any other normal person, coming up to breathe in, and then hands down the center, pausing at the center, that as you go through your yoga practice, your mind is going to flip-flop all over the place. So sometimes you're going to be totally focused on what you're doing, and then as soon as you get to a point of stillness, your head fills up with stuff again. And so when you're upside down, just let that stuff go again. All right, so on your exhale, let your hands go down, and then when your inhale comes, take them up. And then we'll float down to the floor again, fingertips to the floor. Take your right foot to the back now, so you're in the lunge with the left foot in front, enjoying the stretch there. Again, foot pressing back, head reaching forward, lengthening everything that you can, opening things up. And then back to downward dog. Gonna flow through this little sequence again that we just did, coming forward. If you are someone that does the low push-up and the upward dog, you can do that. Or you can go to the floor and do your cobra again. So now, upward dog, if you're joining me with upward dog, again, the upward dog can look around, see what's going on. Noticing how when you look over one shoulder or another, the stretch happens in your front hips. If you're feeling playful, you can bark like a dog. Maybe your dog is in the room with you now. And then you're going to move back to downward dog. Stretch and lengthen your spine again. Maybe you're taking your dog for a little walk, wagging your tail. Make it your own pose. Have it do something that you need. And then again, we're going to bring the right foot up to the front. So right foot up to the front. Good. You're going to hop your toes out to the side and the back. So you're on like a railroad track, like you're on two separate skis, although not skis that would be slippery. Hope you're on something that's not too slippery. So this is called crescent lunge. You're in the lunge, your foot is pressing back, front shin moving forward, so it's not just all about the front leg, the back leg is active too, and your arms lifting up. Take a couple breaths here. So the sequence that we're about to do, if at any time you feel tippy or your legs start to get tired, your back knee can come down to the floor, and you can do this whole thing here. And every once in a while I'll stop it and drop it and show you that. So you're going to take your hands around behind you. If you can clasp your hands behind your back, you do that. If you can't, you can just hold your arms back there, or maybe you're holding onto a strap or a sock or something. So if your hands are clasped, you're reaching back. And you're going to reach your knuckles, hands all the way back toward your back heel. Either your back knee is down, or you're lifting your back knee up into your hands. Feel the stretch across the front of your chest. This is such a wonderful way to be if you've been on your phone or staring at a screen for a long time, hunched forward. If you feel really stable, or if you want to come down onto your knee first, you can even open your throat and look up and get the opening all the way around in front. Breathing here. And then whatever you're doing, we're going to bow forward, up on your knee or down on your knee, or up off your knee or down on your knee. On your exhale, bowing forward. Some of us are going to lay on the front thigh. Some might have the flexibility to come inside the front thigh. And your head drops down again. Another opportunity to let go of those thoughts. Dump them out on the floor. You don't eat them. At some point when you're breathing in, coming up, you might take your gaze straight ahead, or again, if you feel stable, you can look up at the ceiling. And then whatever you're doing, let go of your hands or bring them out in front. Back to regular crescent lunge. Breathe in. Circle your hands to the floor. And then back to downward dog. If you are happy and comfortable in downward dog, stay here for a few breaths. If you would prefer to spend a few moments in child's pose, because you're so smart, you're going to go to wisdom pose, you can do that. Or you can just sit in any way that's comfortable and take a couple breaths to check in with what that pose did for you. There was a lot of balancing going on, some strengthening, some opening the chest. Tuck that away. Remember what that tool does for you. So from where you are, downward dog, child's pose, or whatever you're doing, let's meet again in downward dog. And I'm going to show from the other side now, so you're still staying facing the same way on your mat, your rectangular mat. And now bring the left foot up to the front. And you'll hop your toes out to the right side, so you're on that fat balance, and that's going to give you the stability. During this sequence, if you're feeling really tippy, try walking your front foot over toward your pinky toe side and see if that helps. And again, you can always put your back knee down. So we're in crescent lunge with the left foot in front now, feeling both legs moving from the center, strengthening, and then you're going to reach around. If you clasp your hands behind your back, you're going to notice that you always do it the same way, generally. See if you can put the other thumb in front. So just walk your fingers over one, and your other thumb will be in front. If you can't reach, you are holding onto a strap or just reaching your arms back. And then the back leg is lifted tall, or your knee is on the floor. You're gazing forward or up toward the ceiling to open your throat as well as your chest. Your lungs fill up with air, and when you're emptying them, come forward onto or inside your front thigh. Knee high or low. If your knee was down and you want to try taking it up here, it's a little more stable when you're lower down for most people. You can try that. And sometime when you need to breathe in, pair it with the lift up. Maybe going back to the gaze to the ceiling, maybe not. And then release your hands overhead. Circle them down to the floor. And we're going to come up to the front of the mat now. So launch up your back foot, bring it up to the front. Come up a little bit. Fill up with air, and when you're emptying out, fold forward. Let your head drop down again. In this quiet, has things filled up, empty out your tank there. Your tank of negative thoughts. Sometime when you're breathing in, rise, hands touching overhead, and then bringing down something good into you. Back up, and folding to the floor again. So this time we're going to just spend a little more time in the forward bend. You're going to bend your left knee a lot and let your right leg stay straight. So your hip will drop down a little bit. Left hip lower than right hip. Notice how things change in your stretch in your low back. And then bend both legs and straighten up the other leg. The left leg is straight now, right knee is bent a lot, your right hip is dropping below your left. And then bend both knees, we're going to come up to chair pose. So you pretend like you're sitting back in a chair, arms can be out in front. Giving a little counterbalance, breathing here, building the strength. So one thing that's nice about these more challenging kind of strength building poses is generally your head is not floating off to other things. It's right here. On your inhale, stand up tall. Breathe in. Great. Bring your hands down to the center now. And so we're going to play around with dancer's pose now. It was one of the favorites when I was working with the kids in person. So so many young people have such beautifully flexible spines that I love to be able to have them take advantage of that. If you are not a young person who has a beautifully flexible spine like me, then you'll just do what you can. So we're going to start on the left foot. And you spread out your toes as much as you can. If you happen to watch my class that I taught all about balance, I went into this a lot. If you have issues with balancing, you might jump over and watch that sometime. So prepare your left foot to support you. Hold on to your right foot with your right hand, and then you're going to bring your knees in close. Bring your knee back behind you. Your left arm can come out in front. And as your knee lifts, you go as high as you can. Now I'm going to show this view. You lift your knee as high as it can go before you have to start tipping over. And then when you start tipping over, keep your chest lifted. So your foot and your crown of your head are going toward the ceiling equally. Trying to look at something that's not moving, that's at about your eye height. not looking down at the floor. So keep everything lifted, coming out whenever you like. Standing on 2 feet again. Feel how that opens things up. Feel how you couldn't think about other things when you're trying to balance on one foot like that. And now we'll do the other side. So standing on your right foot, holding on to your left foot with your left hand, and bring your knee up and back until it tips you over, but you keep your chest lifted. Right arm reaching out, and your foot and your head equally lifting, breathing, enjoying, hopefully, coming out when you're done. Good. So we're going to do that on the floor in a little bit too. Similar thing. Let's come to the front of the mat. So you'll come to the front of your little rectangle. And we're going to flow through the sun salutation again. So just connecting with your breath, trying to make it kind of a meditation with your breathing. Take your arms overhead and fold over. Dump out any judgment you had about your dancer's pose as you take your right foot to the back of the mat. Enjoy the lunge, slide into your downward dog as you empty your breath out. Filling up with air as you come forward, emptying the air as you lower. Filling up into your open chest that you're creating here with your cobra. And then back to downward dog. Empty out. Now you're going to bring your right foot up to the front. And we'll take warrior 2. So let your heel come down in the same line with your front foot coming up. It's kind of fun to pretend like you're a martial artist here. You can lead with your left elbow coming up. Your right foot is in front, leading with the left elbow up and over your head like, you can pretend you're some cool movie. And let's play a little bit with why this is called warrior. This pose is supposed to be that you just shot an arrow. So you're going to take your arm in the front and you string your bow and you pull back. So you're ready to let your arrow fly. And gaze out and imagine your target. Now, we're not trying to kill anybody or anything. I'm not saying that you're shooting at a living being here. Your target might be to be calm today. Your target might be to be nice to your little brother today. Your target might be to actually do the schoolwork that you're supposed to do today. My target might be to actually do my architecture work that I need to do today. So pick your target and focus on it, and then you let your arrow fly. Watch it fly, watch it hit the target. Super. So warrior 2 sounds like it's a violent kind of thing, but it's all about just having that mind state of getting done what you need to do. Great. Let's come out of it and go to the other side. You're going to put both hands down. Let your right leg dragging back to downward dog. You can either be a smart person and take a child's pose now, stay in downward dog, or join me, moving through what's called a vinyasa again, filling up, lowering to the low push-up or the floor, taking either your cobra, taking the view, or your upper dog, looking around, and then move back to downward dog. So you're going to stay where you are and bring your left foot forward. I'm going to pivot around so you can see this side, and bring your left foot up to the front of the mat. Heel coming down right where it is. Again, you can be that martial artist, right elbow leading you up. And maybe you got a different target this time, or maybe it's the same one. Maybe you missed it on the other side. You didn't get that bullseye. You're going to try again. So coming forward, pulling on your bowstring, pulling back. You've got your arrow there. Think about your target. Release. Watch your arrow fly. Did you get a bullseye this time? See how it goes for your day. You can come back to this image when you're going throughout your day. See your bullseye. And let's come to the floor again. This time we'll come up to the front again. Take a nice breath in as you exhale, rolling over. So another favorite pose in the classes was crow pose. Again, young people are often very strong relative to their body weight, so this is a fun thing for them. You're going to bring your feet toward each other and knees way apart. Knees high up off the floor. And on an exhale, you can lower your torso down as much as your body allows you to do. So you've got a high knee, and you're going to slide your upper arm underneath on both sides and cement those two into each other. You're pressing your arms and your legs into each other. Hands out pretty much like under your face, and then you're going to look way ahead and lift up. So I've got my hands and my feet on the floor, and I'm pressing my arms and my legs into each other. I might stay like this, or again, I'll pivot around so you can see. Or I start with my head looking way out in front. I'm not looking back at my feet. I start to move weight into my hands. And when the weight comes out of my feet, I pick them up. If the weight doesn't come out of my feet, I just leave my feet on the floor and work here. This is still crow. So have some fun here. Maybe you're going to make some crow sounds. It's fun to watch the crows ganging together and chasing away the big birds of prey that are bothering their nests. So they're not so strong by themselves, but together they can chase away a really big, dangerous bird. So maybe you're remembering that working together, you can be stronger too. So come out of your crow, and we're going to stand up again, do a forward fold. You're still at the top of your mat. I know I'm moving around all over the place. Bring your feet were already together, keep them together. We're going to take a twisting chair pose now. So bending your knees a lot, coming up, arms out in front. Let's take the right arm back behind you. Use your core muscles to twist around. You can stay up high like this or go low by reaching your left arm across. Maybe you take the prayer hands. And then the final thing is maybe looking up over your shoulder. Breathing there. This is one of my favorite poses because it's really hard to breathe here. So I know that I'm stretching my lungs and my ribs, or stretching the rib cage all around my lungs, creating a little more space. You're going to come out of it either staying with the strengthening with your legs bent or coming through a forward fold to get to the other side. And then you'll come to the chair on the other, this again, and turning the other way. Now your right arm comes across, gazing to the side or over your shoulder. Breathe in. Notice where the air can go. It's a little harder to breathe in here. And now let's all go to the forward fold. Standing up tall. And hands down the center. Great. So now let's try another balance pose, just a more simple one, tree. So shifting your weight, we'll start on the right foot this time, shifting your weight over, placing your foot on your leg, either on your calf or above your knee, one or the other. Hands at your heart. So before we were living beings that can move around wherever in the world, a snake, a dog, now we're a tree. We're rooted down into the ground. We can't go anywhere. Can you identify with that right now? Right? We're kind of stuck in one place now. But a tree has a full and vibrant life. You can grow some branches out. Right now, the trees are getting some little buds, leafing out, starting to leaf out, starting to get into that phase of their lives where they reach up to the sun and find all that nutrition to grow their roots even stronger over the winter when they don't have the leaves. So can you, while you're stuck in one spot, maybe grow some deeper roots? And maybe you practice swaying in the breeze a little bit like a tree does. They can move. They just don't move from their rooted spot. And then hands back to your heart. And whenever you want to, you can put your foot down, stand on 2 feet, breathe. In and out. So I know I was having you think of things, but you might notice on sometimes when you're doing a tree pose that just the effort in trying to stay on one foot can keep you from getting all up in your head. And it's a little easier than dancer pose, so this is another tool you can use. So now let's shift to your left foot, finding a place for your right foot to be on your leg, either below or above your knee, not on your knee joint. I know so many advertisements show tree pose like this, and it's not good for your knee over time. So please do not practice it that way. If you can't get your foot up above your knee, this is the way to go, okay? You do not want to hurt yourself doing yoga. Okay, so once again, hands here. Find your root system now under your left foot. Find your Branches reaching out, fingers extending, soaking up the sun. Maybe you take your palms facing up. What kind of nutrition are you able to get just from the atmosphere around you? We humans breathe in oxygen, becoming more and more appreciative of that ability every day when we hear about what's happening to so many people's ability to breathe. So really luxuriate in the air coming in. Whenever you like, bringing your hands back to your heart, and then landing on your 2 feet again. Noticing. Beautiful. Okay, so you're at the front of your mat. I'm just going to come over here to my virtual front of the mat and take my arms overhead. You can join me on your inhale. Exhaling down center. Once again, inhaling, fingertips pressing toward the ceiling as your feet press toward the floor. Sometime when you're exhaling, let your fingertips join your feet down on the floor. And again, your left foot reaching to the back this time. So we're going to do Warrior 2 again. You can imagine that you just shot your arrow. Once again, you might be thinking about that same target, or maybe a different target has floated up into your mind, something that you need to be shooting at, aiming at. But now we're going to be a little more playful in our warrior, dancing warrior. So letting your back arm drop onto your back leg, and the front arm lifts. Be as fluid as you can be as you come forward, letting your elbow rest on your front knee and your upper arm reaches up. And you're just going to move back and forth between those two at your pace. So if you want to, you can stay on one side of this or the other as you take a full cycle of air, feeling the inhale as you're coming forward, or as you're leaning forward, or maybe when you're inhaling, you're coming up and moving back and forth. So stay for a couple of rounds of breath on one side or the other, or just make it move back and forth. Your front leg might be a little tired at this point. You can come up higher, come out of the pose altogether, whatever feels good. And now we're just going to up and move to the other side of the mat. So you're going to be facing away. Just pivot on your front heel and your back toes. So now the left foot is pointing toward the back of your mat, and your right foot is at that angle in what was the front of your mat. Now it's the back of your mat. Warrior 2 here. Now you're facing a different direction. Maybe there is an actual target over there that's different that you're looking at. So imagine your arrow flying there. You've released the arrow, you've released that sort of more active part of it, and now let's enjoy some movement. Reverse warrior, side angle, just moving between the two. Finding how each of these different positions can enhance what your lungs are capable of doing for you. So we were just a tree with our leaves reaching out, and the leaves take in the nutrients. But with us, it's our connection to our lungs that then connects to all the rest of our body, bringing the oxygen that we need, bringing the waste products out that we don't need. Now we're going to pause in Warrior 2 one of these times. Straighten both legs. Now you're going to pivot on the left heel and the right toe to come to a straddle. So you're going to be here, reaching your arms out, hinging, and then letting your arms drop down. If they don't reach the floor and you have some blocks, you can have your hands up on blocks. Or you can just put your hands on your hips. Feel the stretch in the backs of your legs. And now if your hands are not grounded on something, this will be a little more challenging for your leg strength. Or if you want it to be more challenging for your leg strength, take your hands up and don't put any weight into your hands. If you want it to be more of a stretch, you'll let some weight go into your hands. You're just going to bend one knee and then the other. You can pretend that you're some kind of animal sneaking around, looking for something under the bush, feeling your hips opening up. Or you can take this opportunity again to let your head relax down. Maybe you've collected some thoughts that you need to dump out. So use whatever imaginary thing you can do here on your little rectangle of yoga mat to make the world a better place for you for this time. And now we're going to go back to the lunge facing at what was originally the front of your mat. So your right foot's out in front in the lunge. Plant your hands, move back to downward dog. Now we're going to do what's called flipping the dog. If you have not done this, please come down and just watch like this for a couple moments, because when you're doing it, you can't see, and it's a little hard to describe just with words. I'm going to show you in this orientation. You're going to lift your right leg up high to the ceiling, and then you start to let it come over to the side. Okay? Now, my right leg is up in the air, and my right hand is down on the floor. As my foot comes closer and closer to the floor, my hand is going to have to come off the floor. So for a moment, I'm balanced just on my left hand and my left leg. You don't have to stand there still. It's more of a continuous motion, but I wanted you to see how you, for a moment, you're balancing. And then you just keep going until your right leg lands on the floor. So I'm going to show you what that looks like a little more fluidly. You bring your leg up, start to come over, and it just flops down like that. Now, when you're like this, I'm going to show you in a different angle. The way I'm doing it is my left leg is straight, and I'm on my right toes. And then I can lift my hips high, let my head drop down again. You can have some fun with your upper arm. You can let your chest go up toward the ceiling. Sometimes people do this where both legs are bent, and it's more like an upward table. That's another option. It's a little more strenuous on your shoulder, the left shoulder, so you can be careful with that. And if you're super fancy, which I am not going to do, but you can pivot your left hand out on the floor and go to a back bend here. We're going to go to a back bend in a more normal way later, but if you feel crazy like you want to do that, go right ahead. All right, so we're going to come back around, downward dog. If you were watching all that time, then you can join me now on the other side, and then I will do it one more time on both sides just to kind of even things up. Okay, so we're going to do it now with the left leg lifting up into the air. So now hopefully you all know what you're doing, and you can join in if you haven't done that already. Left leg lifting up into the air, and start to let it drop over to the side. Left hand starting to come off the floor as your left foot lands on the floor. So your right leg is straight. You're standing tall on your right hand. You're opening up, letting your head relax down, enjoying the opening. Some yoga traditions call this pose wild thing. So can you be a wild thing? And then we're going to come back around. Let's let the knees come to the floor for a moment, because for some people that can be quite strenuous on your arm and your wrist, so give yourself a little break, because we're going to do one more time on each side. We're not going to stay as long. Just going to kind of flow through it and be wild. Let your mind go into fun things. Have a little fun with this. Okay, I'm going to show it from this side. So right leg rising, flipping over, the right hand lifting, landing on your right foot. Enjoy the opening. And we'll just come back, both feet on the floor. Take your left foot high, fill up with air. Start to descend as you exhale. And then once you're there, huge inhale, and coming back around. Super. Come forward. On your exhale, lower to the floor. And we're going to play around with a whole bunch of variations of bow pose. Again, taking advantage of hopefully the young audience that we're getting for this yoga aimed at middle school students who have super flexible backs for the most part. I am not going to be that flexible. So we're going to do a variation of dancer's pose that we had done before. You're going to reach around with your left hand onto your left leg. And if you can't reach, you'll put a strap or a belt or something like that. I'll show you how. If you have an actual yoga strap, you can put your foot in the loop. If you don't have a yoga strap, you can just put the strap over the top of your foot like this. And then you can be reaching back like that if you don't have a loop. So however you're doing it, holding onto a strap or holding onto your foot, it's the same hand reaching back to get that foot. So left foot, left hand. You can be relaxing down here and just getting a quad stretch, or you can be lifting your thigh off the floor, lifting your chest off the floor, using your arm strength. And you kind of find that dancer pose that we were doing before, just the balance is taken out of it. So your back foot, the crown of your head, lifting toward the ceiling, stretching there, feeling the strength in your back, releasing down. And if you're using a strap, you put it on your other foot. If you're not, you'll just reach around and grab the other foot. So right hand on right foot now, left arm resting on the floor, and either just getting a quad stretch and you're relaxing on the floor, or lifting your thigh and your chest, foot and head toward the ceiling, half bow, dancer's pose on the floor, relaxing and releasing. Let your palms stack on top of each other and your forehead rest on top of that. Wiggle your hips around a little bit. You can bend your knees and wiggle your feet as well. So this is time for a little assessment. And you need to be honest with yourself. How does your back feel? If it feels great, you're going to go on to the full bow pose. If it's feeling a little not so great, maybe you stay with this, or you repeat a half bow, or maybe you can go back and take a child's pose. Wisdom pose, right? How smart are you? If you're going to move on to the bow pose, you're going to reach back and grab with both hands, both feet. Again, if you're using a strap, you can put the strap around like the front of your ankles, like that, and then holding on there. So whatever you're doing, once again now, both feet and the crown of your head are going toward the ceiling. You can also, of course, just be opening your quads, relaxing on the floor, or you press your feet back, feel how it lifts your chest off the floor, and then engage your glutes and your hamstrings and your low back muscles to lift your thighs off the floor, whatever amount you can. This is a big front opener. You can open your throat as well. This is a super thing to do after you've been staring at the screen all day. Breathing in. So this is called bow pose, and we're going to then later a little bit do bridge a full wheel pose, which the full yoga name is upward facing bow. So you're feeling this, and you're going to just be flipping it over onto its other way. So relaxing down. Again, support your forehead with stacked palms, letting your feet smoothly glide side to side, catching up with your breath. When you're doing these really intense back bends, your heart is kind of getting squished in your lungs and in between your rib cage. So it takes a little bit of time to kind of recover from that. All right, so now let your feet come down. We're all going to go to wisdom pose. Now, before we go there, I would like us to do a couple of cat and cows. And I'm going to give a tiny little primer on child's pose. So there are two ways to do child's pose. One is with your knee, well, there's a lot of ways, but a couple of ways that I'm going to talk about. Knees together, knees apart. Now, what the differences can do for you is, let's take cat pose that we did in the very beginning, that internal focus where your low back is rounded. Keep your knees together near each other. Keep the rounding in your low back as you settle back into your child's pose. Let your forearms and your forehead rest on the floor or something else. And feel that nice opening. Your back is arching toward the ceiling, sit bones dropping down toward the floor. So this is the typical child's pose. Now when you're inhaling sometime soon, come up and find your cow pose, where your sit bones are lifting high, your belly is dropping toward the floor. So now your low back is arching in this direction, up, belly dropping, and sit bones lifting. Now we're going to take our knees wide. Keep your back in the cow pose as you shift back. And then let your torso drop down. So with this child's pose, you can be getting a little more length in your spine rather than the rounding, maybe even a tiny little bit of an arch if your hamstrings are quite flexible. So it's an opportunity to be kind of retreating, but with a long back, lots of space in your rib cage to breathe. So enjoy a few breaths in whichever child's pose you choose, deciding what your low back needs after the back bends. One of these inhales, fill it up as much as you can, and then hold it, and then let it out through your mouth. While you're here, maybe you empty out your head again And then let an inhale take you up onto your hands and knees. Bring your knees under your hips if they weren't there already. Great. And now you're just gonna come onto your side of your hip. We're gonna have a seat. So now I would like us to play around a little bit with a hip opener that is quite accessible for most people. So if you are somebody that knows pigeon pose and you love pigeon pose and you want to spend some time in pigeon pose, I'm not going to show you how to do that, but if that's your thing for hip opening, by all means, jump into that now. Otherwise, you're going to join me, putting both feet out in front, both hands behind you, however you like. Doesn't matter what angle your fingers are pointing, just whatever's comfortable for you. And open your chest nice and free, breathing in. So we're going to start with stretching your left hip by bringing your left ankle up and over. So this is kind of a version of the number 4 hip opener, except we're sitting up instead of lying on our backs. Now, for some people, you're going to find that you're not able to get your ankle up and over. What you need to do is just walk your hands a little further back and walk your feet a little further away. And you've got a little more space for you to bring your leg up and over. If it's quite comfortable for you, then what you want to do is walk your hands in a little closer, walk your foot in a little closer, and then bring your foot up and in. So the closer your chest and your shin get to each other, the more stretch you're going to feel. The reason I like to do this one is that you can, if you're super open today, you can be where your chest and your shin are almost touching. And if you're not feeling very open today, you can be way here and getting a perfect stretch for you. So it's very adaptable, this pose. And you can do it sitting almost like this in a chair. So if I were in a chair, hopefully this won't tip over, you can do the same kind of thing, leaning forward or staying up, having your foot come in so your knee is higher, or moving your foot away so your knee is lower. So I know that we're staying in this for a while. I've been doing all these different things. You're staying in your hip opener, breathing, working with that. One thing about hip openers is that they are supposed to be quite good with dealing with stuck emotions. There's something about the way your brain sends the nerve signals down to your pelvic area that is supposed to be tied in with some emotional things that you might be experiencing. So there's a lot going on right now. We're going to switch sides in a moment. If you're in your regular pigeon pose, come on up out of it and make your way to the other side. If you're here, you're just going to take your left ankle off. See how that feels. See what you've done for yourself. And now make any adjustments you need to. Most of us are tighter on one side than the other, so if you're not sure, then you'll just try it. If you know, then you'll make an adjustment based on what you need. I'm more open on my right side, so I can come a little closer in. So right now, we've all got a lot of stuff going on, and I don't know about you guys, but, you know, knock on wood, knock on the floor. You know, I'm feeling pretty lucky. My family is healthy so far. Hopefully yours is too. And, you know, I have a nice house to be in for this quarantine. I can go out walking with my dogs. So, you know, I feel like I shouldn't feel bad because things for me are okay right now. Again, knock on wood. I'm going to knock on my block of wood that I always carry with me. But still, we all are going to be feeling stuff. And we need to give ourselves permission to feel it, whatever it is. So if you're finding when you're doing a hip opening that something feels weird, comes bubbling up out of you, let that come out. Don't hold it in. And at some point, when you feel like you've done this side around the same amount of time as the other side, you'll come out of whatever pose you're in. If you're in regular pigeon pose, I'd like you to come around and join us sitting on the floor again. And we're going to take a forward fold. So I did a long discussion about forward folds on my class that I call Beginner's Mind. If you'd like to go and take a look at that sometime, I talk a lot about it, which I'm not going to do right now. So you're just going to take a breath in and fold forward. Get the stretch in your hamstrings. Get the stretch in your back body. get an opportunity, your head, you can dump things out, breathing there. So we're going to spend a few breaths just here in this forward fold. The forward fold is meant to be very calming, helps you to deal with too much stuff in the world. So the last thing I'll say is about feelings as we sit here in the forward fold, you can see in your forward fold breathing, is that there are two ways of looking at feelings. One is your feelings are true, they're authentic, they're what you're feeling, you need to let them be expressed in some way. But a lot of times, the feelings are based on thoughts that are coming from your reptile brain. There's a part of your brain in the back of your head that's your reptile brain, your primitive brain, and that's where the fear stuff comes in. So you hear something on the news and you start to feel really anxious, and by all means, feel that. Don't tamp it down and suppress it. But one thing you can try practicing is let the thought move from your primitive brain up to the frontal lobes of your brain, the more advanced part of your brain that can analyze and ask, is that thing true that I'm thinking about that's making me feel afraid? So sometimes when you just feel afraid, you just need to feel it, but other times you might let yourself shift to the frontal brain, process it with the human mind. So we've been a lot of different animals this morning. You don't want to stay the reptile and be living in fear. Move your thoughts up to the human brain that we've spent all this time, all these generations evolving to be able to take advantage of. Live there. Live in your frontal brain that is able to analyze and help you deal with those reaction things. By the same token, don't live too much up on your frontal brain where you're processing and overthinking. So find the balance. And whenever you like, coming up out of your forward fold, facing the world, looking around, knowing that is there for you anytime you need it. So now we're going to go to the opposite extreme, doing some back bends. Again, a favorite for the young crowd. If you are not so young in your spine, then you'll stay with the first step, which will be bridge pose. So if you've never done it before, watch. If you are comfortable doing these poses, just go right into them. So bridge pose first we'll do. Bring your feet close to your bottom, slightly wider than your hips, hands down on the floor beside you. Press your low back into the floor and lift your hips high. I'm going to bring my shoulders close to each other. Maybe I'm going to clasp my hands behind my back. If that's accessible, you can join me in doing that. Lift your hips high. Bring your chest closer and closer to your chin. Bring your shoulder blades closer and closer to each other. And enjoy this nice open stretch. Now here, of course, it's the opposite of the forward fold where you're internal. This is a great pose for many people if you're feeling a little slow and sluggish and you want to open things up, be exposed to the world. Now you're going to come down from the top vertebra, lowering to the floor, and rest for a moment here. If you are going to repeat the bridge pose, anytime you want to, you can just come up into bridge. If you're going to do the full wheel, the back bend, the upward facing bow, then you can do that whenever you like if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, try it. Bring your fingertips to come pointing toward your shoulders, and then just come up into your bridge pose again. Now you might just stay here and think about pressing into the floor. If you can press into the floor enough so you come up under the top of your head, you'll do that. And then you lift up a little bit. Maybe you can lift all the way up into the back bend. I'm sure that many of the young people have been in their back bend for a while. So enjoy whatever opening you can get here. Again, another opportunity to dump stuff out of your head. But when you come out of the pose, lift your head up so that the back of your head touches the floor. Either two bridges or a bridge and a wheel. You're going to have one more chance to open up the front. You can try another wheel. Try your first wheel. Go back to bridge, whatever feels best for your body. One of the biggest things that yoga can do for you is it makes you think of need. You need bridge, you need wheel, you need just to lie here. Whatever it is that you need, I'm going to do that. Next time you're breathing in, lifting up, maybe coming onto your head, maybe coming to the back bend. If you're in a back bend and you're comfortable, you can come onto your toes, walk them in a little closer, And then see if you can get your heels to the floor. There. You can also have fun letting one leg go up toward the ceiling, bringing that foot down, taking the other leg to the ceiling. Wherever you are, eventually coming to the floor, again, making sure that your back of your head touches first if you're at wheel, and coming down. Once again, catching up with your breath after the big opening in your chest. And sometime when you're letting your breath go, bring your knees into your chest and squish it out even more. Take another breath in, and on the next exhale, bring your forehead up. Maybe you're lifting your low back off the floor a little bit as well. Tucking yourself into a little ball. Tucking yourself into a little ball. And then on the end. So another way you can deal with a lot of stuff is, there's a wonderful poem by Robert Frost called Choose Something Like a Star. And if I can remember, I will put in the comments the title. And it's basically saying, if things are just too much for you, look up at a star and realize how small we are. And that things aren't so significant maybe. If you are ready for Shavasana, you can just stay as you are, bring your hands down a little bit closer to your sides. Maybe bring your feet a little bit closer to each other and just relaxing here, letting your eyes close. If you feel like moving and you would like to have some props under you, I will show my typical Shavasana. Somebody who stopped the practice a little bit earlier, and I begged and pleaded with you to come to the end for Shavasana. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. I hope you are too. So you can put something under your legs, couch cushion, beanbag, pillows. Put something over you, a beach towel, or a sheet, or a blanket. This is the time that if you have a little creature in your home, maybe they're going to come and sit on top of you as well, a dog or a cat. So find a way to be comfortable, covered, if you're going to do that. And then you can use something to block out the light. It can even be just a tissue, or a tissue with an eye pillow over it, or a sock, or a small towel. And take a huge breath in, let it out through your mouth. Feel your body sinking into whatever is underneath it. Now, as soon as you are still like this, what is happening to your head? So your head is not upside down right now, but you could imagine that hinge, again, opening up the top of your head, dumping out any remaining things that are going to get in the way of you being able to relax here. Let those thoughts go. And they will inevitably come back, but you can just sweep them out again anytime you notice that they're happening. So I said that maybe a beach towel could be something that you can use to cover yourself. But for right now, let's all imagine that we have a beach towel underneath us. And underneath that is some beautiful soft sand. And your body is just sinking into it. And the air around you is warm. And you're either comfortably in the shade, or you're all sunscreened up and you're enjoying soaking up the sun without danger of skin cancer. Maybe you're even hearing the waves. As your breath comes in, imagine the wave coming in. As your breath goes out, the wave pulls back out to the giant ocean. be on your beach towel, on your beach, with your ocean breathing. And as soon as you've left there with your thoughts, just go back. Sitting there, enjoying this time, staying for as long as you have time. Are happy here and wonderful things are happening in your body, please stay longer. Take advantage of perhaps having a little more flexibility in your schedule these days. But if duty calls, and start to make your ocean waves a little bigger, breathing in a little more air. Maybe letting your waves sound a little bit more as you let the air out. Wave crashing. And let's begin the movement with just moving your eyeballs under your lids, tongue in your mouth, and wiggling your jaw around, making funny faces. And then you can get your feet and your hands in on the action. Move your feet and your hands as far away from each other as you can get them. Full body stretch. Fill it up, fill it up, fill it up. Empty out. Small, little tight ball like we made before. Maybe your forehead coming toward your knees. And then roll to your side. Lay your right arm on the floor and your head on top of it. Sometime when you feel like sitting up, pair it with an inhalation. Keep your eyes closed. Sit on your beach for a few more breaths, listening to your ocean. Whenever you feel like it, on an inhale, let your eyelids open. Maybe you're a cobra just coming out of your basket again, looking around. Maybe you're the tree, rooted down, not able to move too much, but still be able to experience a lot of things, growing, replenishing. So we've experienced a lot of things today together, and I really hope that something sticks with you that you can use to help you get through these challenging times and maybe make it where you're not just surviving but actually thriving. So thank you so much for being with me today. Namaste. Again, thank you to community investors and Wellesley Recreation Department for helping spread the word and helping support me. And if you'd like to join in, Erin@personalday.net on PayPal, Personal Day Yoga on Facebook, and this YouTube channel. And I hope you can explore the different offerings that I've put up so far. And as always, I'd love to hear back from you. I'd love to see any pictures. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here.